Hello everyone! Like many others of my generation, I grew up watching the wonderful cartoon My Little Pony. I can say with confidence that this was and remains one of the largest and most active fandoms. Even though the show has finished, fans continue to create content, visit Brony accounts, and just goes as much house as in the good old days. Unless, just as before, the laws of the fandom take precedence over the rules of logic and, just as importantly, over the legislation of the countries where the Brony live. I'm sure that from the title of this video, from what I've just told you, and indeed from the title of my playlist, you guessed that today we'll be touching on the legal side of the Brony fandom, something this community so fervently avoids. But what exactly will we be discussing today? In light of the latest news in the fandom, we'll be discussing the gray area of copyright, especially the gray bases that are so popular among artists. My name is Red Glove. I am an animator and the law student. Let's shed some light on this dark side of fandom art. I suggest we start by getting to understand the legal basis, as we'll need it to make sense the whole nightmare in fandoms. And given that we'll be talking about it in simple terms and reinforcing it in your memory with examples, because, as we all know, if you use associations and link the information to vivid emotions, it will not only stuck in your mind, but you'll also be able to use it when the time comes. Take it from someone who's just finished exams. What's more, my goal is precisely to ensure that my fellow artists can not only defend themselves with words, but also be able to argue their position with the legal sphere. But let's go down to business. So, what exactly are these gray bases? For the most part, if not all, they constitute derivative works. A rather daunting term, isn't it? But let me explain it to you in more detail and you realize it's not scary as it first seems. Usually, this term is applied to work that have been created based on existing works by other people. For example, without staying too far from the world of fan fiction, you can immediately find a simple and familiar example for a derivative works: fan comics, animation, and fan art. And of course our very own gray bases. Just remember that if you take another author's characters and write a story about them without world that author create, well, maybe fanfic or something like that, for instance, that's a derivative work. You've taken a world created by another author and installed your own characters into it. For example, instead of the classic characters from the Fellowship of the Ring, such as Gandalf, Frodo, and others. It's your characters who carry the ring to Mordor. That, too, is derivative work. If you decided not to do things by halves, but have taken both the world and the characters from another author and written a different version of the story, well, you get the idea. It's a derivative work. Just always bear in mind that if something already exists and you're reworking it to suit yourself, you must always be aware of this legal term and the consequences that may await you. But let's get back to our gray bases now that we've discussed the concept of a basis in law. When someone takes an official still from a cartoon, loads it into a graphic editor and starts carefully tracing the pony's outlines with a vector brush, they carrying out exactly the same sort of cosmetic alteration. The fact that the creator of the base imagined erased Twilight Sparkle's gorgeous purple mane, removed her cutie mark, and make her body completely white does not negate the main point. The anatomy, the proportions, the entire curve of the hooves, the shape of the emotions, and the composition of the frame itself, all of these conceived, calculated, and drawn by Hasbro's animators. And this is where artists like this often fall into a trap known as, "But I work it on it too." Well, forget it. You can try to convince yourself and those around you 200 times over that you try your best, that you draw the lines nearly so that others could work comfortably with the base artwork, but the law doesn't care. This technical effort does not grant you copyright over the pony image itself. By law, the exclusive right to create such modified versions, derivative works, belongs solely to Hasbro. This means that any base image obtained by tracing a screenshot automatically becomes an unauthorized derivative work. In other words, one created without permission. And here, if you know this yourself or have watched my video on copyright basis, you might think, "Hold on, Red Glove, but style isn't protected by copyright. I can draw ponies with big eyes just like in the cartoon. That's legal." Yes, that's legal. Hasbro cannot claim ownership of the style itself as an abstract idea. If you start from scratch and draw a pony in the shown style entirely from your own imagination, as I did in my spit paint, you can look, there's no issue here. It's your own original work inspired by the show. But when you take a screenshot and trace it, you're not copying the style, you're stealing the animator's specific physical labor, their angle, their pixel perfect proportions, and their composition. You're not drawing inspiration from the style, you're taking someone else's finished product, erasing the details, and pasting it off as your own work in progress. So now you can understand this difference, yes? I think so. Well, now that we've started out the legal framework, and I hope it was all clear to you that tracing a screenshot from a cartoon as well very bad from a legal point of view, let's get back to the fandom community and find out how they manage to live with the constant risk of facing a lawsuit. So they're doing just fine, but only until their rose-tinted glasses shatter, chance flying inwards. If you browse at sites such as DeviantArt, Huge Commissars, or even Pinterest, you may have noticed mysterious messages beneath the gray pony by this template. Do not use for commercial purpose or huge. You must credit me as the author of the base. Do not resell the base itself. Violators will be banned and blacklisted. I'll tell you in on a secret. If you switch off all external sounds and background noise and listen carefully, you'll be able to hear the strange cry of the sick sequel. But don't be alarmed, it's just some lawyer who haven't stumbled across such a notice. It's choking with uncontrollable laughter. What could have made him laugh so much? Well, the fact that from a legal point of view, these rules are as absurd as stretching on oil over a globe. It's a right first. You can't exactly lay down rules about something you stolen by copying out the pony from image. Legally speaking, the creator of the gray base is just as much lawbreaker as the person who downloaded it. But the real comedy begins when full-down Shakespearean dramas erupt within the fandom over stealing someone's grey bases. I swear you, it's so funny to watch this. You don't even try to break up the fight because it's obvious that these two idiots will turn on you anyway, even if you give them the legal classification of their actions with references to specific sections of the law. I think you all remember the recent surge in armor activity, not that one that happens against the backdrop of the new pony virus F-shot, but the one back in April this year. For those who aren't in the known, people started activity creating their own OCs on the grey basis. Not only that, but a community that has spent years internalizing the laws of friendship began bullying others for creating alicorns, claiming they didn't fit into the series. Though Hasbro wouldn't sorely disagree with you in our review, a whole separate nation of alicorns has emerged, and the icing on the cake was those very same template creators who suddenly appeared and started claiming copyright. I've personally seen lots of videos where creators completed that they were receiving threats of violence of using these grey bases without permission. Thoroughly, you can see how absurd this is now. It's like a TF shouting, "Stop the TF!" And you know, this is exactly what our lecturers at university are always talking about. That level of legal illiteracy, almost the population is simply enormous. And never mind if someone doesn't know the basic customer protection law, that's not so bad, because even the most seasoned lawyer would rarely want to state their energy rounding with a shop assistant over a price tag that wasn't changed in time on the shop floor. But the worst thing is when this sort of total ignorance leads to real dangerous consequences to a fandom that couldn't care less not just about civil and copyright law but even a criminal law. People are in all serious threatening violence, engaging in boxing and harassing artists they don't like online all over a bit of someone else's outline. Guys, wake up, you're confusing the rules of a Reddit suggesting or DeviantArt with the criminal code. Your fan-based justice is called a criminal offense in a real world, and excuses along the lines of "but she took my pony beads without asking" won't say either the police or the court. Sticking with the term of base TF, let me tell you another legal anecdote. So a buyer and the artist walk into the huge commissions, and suddenly the Hasbro lawyers burst out from round the corner and hit them both over the head with a flying pen. Not funny, isn't it? Of course, this isn't some child's sandpaper drawing with sound of "you stole my base." It's far scarier than that. We all know full well the most artists make a living from selling commissions, fan art, and adobes. But the community's lax attitude towards copyright was spawning something terrifying, because most pony fan art is actually drawn using these very templates stolen from Hasbro. Yes, that's precisely when we move from the legal gray area where you might still get off within a mild scare into the black area where you bound to run into those Hasbro lawyers mentioned above, the rights holders, Hasbro, turn a blind eye to non-commercial fan art because it's free publicity. But as soon as commercial activity involving direct tracing comes into play, you officially become a pirate. To those of you who draw on your own artwork, I salute you. You have nothing to worry about, but as for our tracing artists, Hasbro unlikely to send lawyers from the US to your doors. However, you could easily receive a DMSA takedown notice. Platforms such as DeviantArt and huge commissions and other are obliged to remove content upon the first request from the rights holder. One strike, then a second, and your fandom career, along with your wallet, goes into permanent ban with no right to reinstatement. You lose your audience, your portfolio, and your income simply because you were too lazy to draw a horse's anatomy yourself? That's really what you want? I don't think so. Guys, I hope I've managed to explain everything clearly enough for you to understand once and for all that gray basis is a brilliant crunch for beginners to have a bit of fun and learn from. But if you want to be true artist, defend your rights with good arguments and sleep soundly when it's better to draw your own figures. After all, it's not that difficult if you put it effort. Or commission art assets from those who draw them themselves without the risk of getting caught up in a scandal. Compared to my other video, this time I tried to focus on the specific issue, so I hope you found it interesting and useful. And don't forget to put like, leave in comments what do you think about this term, and maybe you can visit our Discord channel and share your problems there. That was Red Glove, created by Law and with Love. Goodbye for now, guys.